Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. Surprise, you only get me tonight. so, Luke, who is our model expert and also an agent at Ophelia Management, was supposed to be on with me tonight, but welcome to entertainment. Schedules change, so unfortunately, you get me. But luckily, I've been around kind of a long time. We're not going to talk about how long because that might give away all of my secrets. But we have a very specific topic that we're talking about tonight. And just to give you the heads up, so tomorrow, I believe it's 7 o'clock, maybe Central Time, is when Luke's video that he's already pre-recorded comes out about what do you do after you receive an agency contract? What happens after that? And so tonight, what we're going to do is I guess we're doing it backwards, but we're going to elaborate a little bit on that because the biggest question that I always get when someone comes through a Preview Models event, or even before they even do it, is Preview Model still going to talk to us after the event happens? What happens after the event? What happens if an agency or multiple agencies wants to work with me? What happens after I sign a contract? It's just kind of like a big gray area. So we're going to talk about that. And then Stephanie had just updated me. So it's 7 p.m. Eastern time. So that would be, what is it? 6 o'clock Central Time, 4 o'clock PST for the YouTube video tomorrow that Luke has already recorded with a lot of this info, but we're going to dig into it a little bit. So anyway, I'm going to get started talking about all of this. I kind of have a rough outline of what I want to cover. However, this is supposed to be an interactive moment for all of us. So in 2024, Preview Models has a goal of giving away as much free information as possible, kind of pulling the curtains back behind the entertainment industry to see what's back there. Entertainment, modeling, fashion, that's what we want to do. So with that being said, this is an interactive moment. So if you have any questions at all about the topic tonight or about anything in modeling and entertainment, go ahead and drop it in the comments now. And my little helpers that are on here with me tonight are going to feed in all of those questions to me, and we'll make this fun little conversation. All right. So let's talk. So the big question, what happens once you get signed with an agency? Or if you are a client that is coming to one of the Preview Models events, what happens after the event? So we're going to start with that. And then I'm going to kind of parallel that with what may happen if you don't come to a Preview Models event and you're trying to maybe, reach out to agencies on your own. All right. So first off, if you are reaching out to an agency on your own, usually that's through a couple of different methods. And one is that you hop online and you search for a big name agency or an agency in whatever city that you live in or a city that you're interested in, going to, and you submit on their online submission. And then usually, especially these days, you wait 6 to 8 weeks on average. Sometimes it's less. If they're interested, they're going to reach out to you. And then the process that we're about to start or talk about happens then. If you go to a Preview Models event, it's a little bit different. At that event, obviously, you're meeting anywhere from 25 to 30 agencies at the same time. And so on the final day of the event, you actually have one-on-one meetings with all of the companies that are at the show. And then after that, we have callbacks, so interest that comes out from these companies over the next 2 to 3 weeks from the event. All right. So whether you come to a Preview Models event or you've done this thing on your own, that's kind of where we're at right now. So you have someone interested in you. Great. That's like the biggest part of the whole equation. All right. There's a company that's interested in you, or maybe there's multiple companies that are interested in you, which happens a lot at our events. So basically, the very first thing that I want to tell everybody, and I always try to reiterate this all the time, You'll hear me say this over and over and over. Remember, the only reason that an agency is going to be interested in you is because they think that you can make them money. This is a business and you're the product. All right. On top of that, never ever forget that even though an agency is kind of choosing you to be on their roster and they want you to be on their roster, it's still you that's in the driver's seat. All right. So it's a business transaction. If multiple agencies want to work with you, they're going to be hungry. They're going to fight over each other to try to get you. That's part of this game. Okay. So, with that being said, you have multiple callbacks, multiple pieces of interest from companies that are interested in working with you. So now you need to have conversations with them. So if it's just one agency, your job's a little bit easier. But if it's multiple agencies, you really want to interview them and see what they're going to do for you. All right. Whether you're interested in modeling, whether you're interested in acting, whether you're interested in both, agencies all do the same thing. But some agencies are a little bit more well connected. Maybe they're a little bit more well connected with designers and clients that are a little bit more of your typecast. And so that's why you need to have conversations with them. What are you going to do with me? Why are you interested in working with me? What is the next couple of months, going to look like? What is it going to look like in 6 months, do you think? A good agent is going to have a strategy in mind for you. Okay. So you're having these interviews. You've decided that you want to sign with an agency. You sign on the dotted line, and now you're working with them. What happens? Well, it depends. Welcome to the industry again. None of these companies are cookie cutter. And so it depends. And so the first thing, though, at least with modeling, and we might touch a little bit on like acting because it does kind of go hand in hand with modeling sometimes, especially if you're a commercial print model and you might be doing, for example, a TV commercial or you're interested in commercial work like that. So we are going to touch on that a little bit and kind of the similarities. We also have a lot of people that come to our events that have went down the acting path before, but they're interested in modeling now. So that's also to kind of help those guys kind of make the parallels and understand the similarities. So there's generally two types of modeling agencies that you would potentially sign with. All right. So one is what we call a mother agency, and another one is what we call a booking agency. So a booking agency is probably the agencies that come to mind first when you think of an agency. Wilhelmina, Elite, Ford, IMG, the big names. Those are typically booking agencies. There's going to be a little bit of development in there. We'll talk about what that means in a moment. There'll be a little bit of development in there, but they're really looking for models, for talent that is ready to work now, yesterday, actually. And so mother agency, they are the equivalent of a manager in the acting world. Okay. So a mother agency is typically the very first agency that you sign with. A mother agency contract is going to be a little bit different than a booking agency contract. We'll talk about that in a moment also. But the biggest difference between a mother agency and a booking agency is the mother agency is going to be really, really focused on your development. Okay. So maybe you've never been in the modeling world before. Or maybe you have, but they feel like you need to, go down a different path. You need to have a different direction. They want to help you find booking agencies that are a fit for you, blah, blah, blah. They're going to be there to kind of help you mold kind of your modeling product, which is you. It's a conversation. And so generally what happens in that stage, let's talk about that a moment. And if it hasn't came out already, I know it's definitely going to be in the near future, but we also are going to have just a separate, like heavily produced, it's fancy video about what a mother agency is. Okay. But this is typically what the process is. You've just signed with your mother agent. Y'all talk about kind of the development strategy, or and or they're going to have to do some things to figure out what your development is. One of the very, very first things that you'll probably ever do with your mother agent or even a booking agent is a test shoot. All right. So a test shoot is just like it sounds, it's kind of a test. That agency, especially a mother agency, and especially if you don't have an extensive portfolio, they're going to have an agency photographer come in. Sometimes it's an actual agent, and they are going to do a photo shoot with you. It's pretty plain, it's a plain background. You'll have a pretty simple outfit on, and they basically just want to see what you look like on camera. That's it. And then they want to see how your personality translates through the camera. You would be so surprised how many people look completely different on camera than they do in person. Or you would also be surprised to see someone walking on the street that you're like, oh my gosh, that person absolutely needs to be a model. They're so model-esque, but on camera, it just doesn't translate. Whatever. I don't know why that is. I think it's kind of like looking at yourself in the camera sometimes, but you never know. So they need to test it. After that, they'll usually do digitals with you as well. All right. So digitals are in the old school days, we called it Polaroids because we had Polaroid cameras. I guess we do now, but we use digitals. Usually it's an iPhone or something like that. And what that is, it's a blank background, usually an all black or at least neutral form-fitting outfit. And they're just taking pictures of you, headshot, profile, 3/4 length, full body. All right. And that's just to see what they're working with. That's kind of the first couple of steps when you're with a mother agency. Then at that point, what they do is they will start sending those test shoot photos, but definitely the digitals around to well-known photographers, well-connected photographers to see if they want to shoot with you. Because obviously in the modeling world, photography is huge. So the photographers are kind of an entry point to kind of get the word out about you. At the same time, that mother agency will try to book you on jobs. A lot of mother agencies do that as well, but their other focus is to try to get you with a booking agent so that booking agent can focus on doing all of the actual bookings, and then they focus on more of the development and just, larger bookings that come through their desk. All right? That's that side of the equation, mother agent. Booking agency, it's even more simple. So they're looking for someone ready to work. Primarily, you might have some work. Ideally, you would have some, or you're just, an exact fit for what they're looking for in that moment. You don't need a lot of polishing. And so they would take you on. They may do a test shoot with you. That does happen sometimes. And then what they're also going to do is they're going to start helping you develop your portfolio. And then they're immediately just going to start booking you on jobs. Ideally, you already have a good enough portfolio, a comp card, digitals, whatever, that they don't really have much work to do. Pretty strict, cut and dry right there. All right. So I'm going to start pulling some questions now because they're slowly coming in and kind of incorporating it into all of this. And so the first question is do you need to live in LA if an LA agency signs a model? The answer is maybe. And so this really comes down to the agency. All right. There did used to be a time where you would have to absolutely be in the city to, even get a second look from that agency. But times have changed a little bit. So that's going to come down to a conversation with your agent. But remember, rule number one is regardless of what agency wants to work with you, and regardless if you are working with an agency, you're in the driver's seat. The only reason that they're working with you is because they think that you can make them money. All right. Obviously, it's best if you're interested in an LA agency, that you're there. All right. Work comes through all the time. Commercial work, commercial print work can have a really quick turnaround sometimes. All right. So in that case, you need to be there for the job. However, you may be able to work it out with your agency that, you know, you only come out for maybe like a 2-month span time, or you come out for 1 month during like a busy season or something like that. That's something that is common. If you don't live in LA, but you're interested in having an LA agency, my suggestion would be that you try to find an agency in your region first. Okay. A lot of times that agency, especially a regional agency, will act as a mother agent for you. So let's say that you come from the Midwest. Let's say that you're close to maybe Chicago. Chicago has a pretty solid commercial print market, and they have a lot of mother agencies as well. And so, even some of the big name agencies like Elite, for example, they have a location in Chicago, and that location acts like a mother agent to people who live in that particular area. So, if you're not signed, you're interested in having an LA agent, but you don't want to move there, the step would be to try to find a mother agency in your region that can then help you navigate that. So, that mother agency would be able to develop you in your region and potentially send you out for work in that area. And then they would be able to help you find booking agents in the particular markets that you're interested in and the particular markets that you would be marketable in. Just because you want to work in a certain market does not necessarily mean you're going to be marketable there. So that's where a good conversation comes down with your mother agency. Good questions. I love this. I love the interactivity. It makes my job easier. All right. So, next question. What should I be mindful of when reviewing modeling contracts or agreements? Okay. That's great. So, we have a little bit of an edge here because my mother is in the legal industry and I read everything like a legal document. So, the very, very first thing that you would want to look for is kind of where we started with all of this. What kind of agency, and they might have had this conversation with you, but what kind of agency contract is this? Is this a booking agent contract or is it going to be a mother agency contract? The only thing that is going to tell you that this is a mother agency contract is they will have a specific clause, so a paragraph that says mother agency or mother agency clause. All right. If it doesn't have that, it's just a regular booking agent. Okay. The other thing that you're going to want to look at is your percentage. So, typically, modeling agency contracts are anywhere from 10 to 20%, and it usually goes on a range within your contract, depending upon you know, what type of job it is. So certain jobs, it might be a 20% commission. Others, it might be 10 for your agencies. If you do have that mother agency clause in there, you would also want to see what the mother agency percentage is. So, because the mother agency is acting as your manager, almost your developer, and they're kind of holding your hand throughout the entire, you know, everything in your modeling career, they're going to take a smaller, you know, it's usually less than 10%, but a smaller commission on top of the commission that the booking agent takes. We're getting into the weeds here. Don't get too crazy. But sometimes your mother agency may also be your booking agent. So you would want to look at the contract to see, okay, if my mother agency is my booking agency, in that case, do they only take the booking agency fee or do they take the booking agency fee plus the mother agency fee on top of that? Now, either way, it's not necessarily that it's bad or good in either way. You just want to be aware of those things. So the question is, what do we want to be mindful of? Okay. The other thing that you definitely need to be mindful of is where this agency is representing you in. Where at? Is it a non-exclusive contract or is it an exclusive contract? So let's start with a mile radius first. Most contracts are going to have a mile radius. Let's say we talked about LA agents earlier. So an LA agency is only going to represent you in the LA markets. Usually there's a mile radius that is placed within your contract. Usually it's 75. I've seen different though. All right. So you want to be aware of that. Okay. That's how you're able to get multiple agencies in different markets because they're not kind of working on the same territory. Now, your mother agency clause, you may have two different types of things in that. All right. So one might be a mile radius for just the booking agent part that they may do. And the other will be in that mother agency clause, it will basically say worldwide. I've never seen a mother agency clause that was not that. But it's worldwide usually because they're placing you around the world sometimes. Ophelia Management, which is Luke's company, they're a mother agent and they place models around the world and they work with them even when, they're in South Africa or Europe or Asia. So they're still doing work. You're just way over there. So the other thing that we were talking about is it an exclusive contract or is it a non-exclusive contract? It's going to be rough and rare to find a non-exclusive contract in the area that an agency works. So most agency contracts are going to be exclusive, but they're going to be exclusive within a certain area. All right, let's go down for the next couple of questions. And you guys, normally I'm used to like bouncing off of somebody else on this call. So if I go down the crazy rabbit hole and I'm talking about things and you miss something, by all means, let me know. All right. Can you work? Okay, I think we covered this, but can you work with more than one agency in LA? We did not cover that. Okay, so can you work with more than one agency in LA if they are on separate sides of the area, more than 50 miles apart, or do different types of bookings? Okay, good question. So, let's talk about the first part. So the mileage radius. So can you work? You have an LA agent. Got it. Can you work with another LA agent that is outside of the 50-mile radius or 75, maybe, who knows what it is, that this agency that you've signed with has in their contract? So theoretically, and I would have to review these contracts or whatever, but theoretically, yes. So if agency A has signed you with a 50-mile radius exclusive agreement, then yes, you can sign with agency B that is 51 miles outside of that radius. However, if we're talking about LA, and don't hold me to this, but my LA geography is not that good because you're in LA and you go down the highway and it literally takes half your day, but you've only went like 8 miles. So I don't even know on a map where we would be 50 miles out from LA. So I don't even know what market that would be. However, San Diego has a small market. San Francisco has a pretty good market. And so that would qualify. And so that was part one. Can you sign outside of that mile radius? Yes. If your contract says 50, then you can sign an agent that is based outside of that 100%. Second part of that question, can you sign with the multiple agencies in the same market within the 50 miles, let's say, that are representing you for different types of things? Yes. You typically see this a lot more with someone who does modeling and acting versus just modeling. But so let's use that for an example. Let's say that you're an actor. Let's say that you're represented for TV and film, but you're also interested in commercial print and maybe even high fashion runway. I don't know what you look like. Maybe that's a fit for you too. In that case, you could sign with a separate modeling agency that would represent you for commercial print and for runway. Just a little tidbit, since we're pulling back the curtains on everything. A lot of the talent agencies, especially in Los Angeles, so talent agency, I'm gearing more towards like entertainment acting side. A lot of those agencies are completely full service. And so they have commercial print departments. It's not high fashion runway, but that's kind of like when you see a billboard or you open up a magazine and you see an ad for a clothing company, that's commercial print. Great question. All right. Could you provide insights into how models typically compensate their agencies? Are there standard commission rates or fees? And how are these typically structured in the industry? Okay, we kind of touched on that a little bit, but let's talk about it again for clarity. Modeling agency contracts, and I'm talking US primarily right now. Okay. So we are launching preview models in Paris in December. And so there's been a big demand for an event like this to come to the European markets. And so that's a whole other animal. Note, I got it. So we will definitely have someone from an international agency or with international agency perspectives, Europe, South America, Asia, South Africa. We will definitely have some of those come on and kind of give feedback on that. But I'm talking about US markets primarily now. And so anyway, the percentages are usually 10 to 20% for a booking agent fee. And that is typically outlined in your contract as a job that agency gets for you. Okay. That would be the non-exclusive contract, actually. If it's an exclusive contract, they get that 10 to 20%, even if you like go down the road and, this is completely hypothetical, but you're going down the road and, Chanel walks out on Rodeo Drive and they're like, hey, we want you to do this campaign. So you, as the model, booked that, but your agency, if it's an exclusive contract, they're still going to get that 10 to 20% because you booked that in their market and they're your representative. So that would be an exclusive contract. A non-exclusive contract would mean that you can do that and you don't have to share that percentage with your agency. But like I said earlier, you're not really going to see that. Okay. So the question is, how is it typically structured? 10 to 20%. Your mother agency is usually less than 10%. I know that's broad, but sometimes you can find a mother agency in Houston, Texas, or you can find a mother agency in Birmingham, Alabama. Believe it or not, you can find. I spend a lot of time in Austin. You can find a mother agency in Austin, and all of those markets are different, and every state's rules are different, and so their mother agency fee may be all the way up to 10%. I've never seen that, but it could be. Usually, it's around 5. Okay. And then how are they structured? I want to comment on one more thing. Talent agencies. If you're signing with a talent agency in a major market, that's LA, New York, Chicago as well. Those talent agencies are going to be under union rules. And so their contracts are going to be union. So all the percentages in that are set in stone and you can't go around that. They cannot be an agency. I'm sorry, they cannot be a union agency without having union contracts that fit with the union rules for union work. Modeling agencies are different. They're usually not unionized. That does not mean that they don't do union work, which the union rules would apply, but the contract's not unionized. In terms of structure, let me know if I did not answer your question and how it's structured. Maybe clarify that a little for me and I can dig in that a little bit more. Next question. So will there be anything in the contract regarding social media posts / profile representation? Okay. Hold on. Because you said profile representation. So that kind of confuses me a little bit because when you say representation, that kind of means that somebody is representing your profile. So like an agent represents you. So feel free to clarify that a little bit, but I'm still going to answer your question, what I think it is. And so will there be anything in the contract regarding social media post profile representation? Oh, okay. I think I understand how you're representing yourself on your profile. Maybe. So because a modeling agency contract is not a unionized contract, that means that every single model agency contract is going to be a little different. When you sign with different talent agencies that for acting that are unionized, all their contracts are so similar. Like they're the same exact things, but modeling is a little different. These days, yeah, you might see something in there about your social media. However, um, social media, I think we all know, is very important these days. So, there are agencies that only represent, mega influencers. That's all they do. And so obviously those contracts are going to be heavily on the social media side. Um, so yeah, there may be something for that. It's kind of fun that you're bringing that up. So fun story at the last event that we had in LA, which was all the months are blending together for me, guys. It's been a week. So October 2023 was our last Los Angeles event. And at that event, there was an agent that came up to me. She's been to a lot of events that I've been to. But anyway, she's like, hey, I know that you always listen to everything that I say and take it into consideration. And she said, but y'all, as in preview models, y'all should really consider having a component for social media that is offered to your clients because it's so important these days. Um, and so I'm jumping the gun. I don't even know how many clients are on here, and Sarah and Brandy and the rest of the client relations team hasn't even announced that, but I can break the rules. But for the March event that we're just about to have in just a couple of weeks, we are having a social media component that we're adding on for you guys. One of the seminars that we're having an agency come in that is one of these agencies that works with a lot of influencers, and they're going to talk about it. They're going to talk about social media. They're going to talk about how the influencer world is kind of blending with modeling and vice versa. And then on top of that, we're even going to have I'm not going to give this away, but we are having a very, very famous influencer come into the event. She has, I think the last time I checked, she had either 4.5 or 4.7 million followers on Instagram. So I think she's doing something okay. And so anyway, she's coming in and with a group of you guys, she's actually going to sit down. Y'all can hold your phones right there and say, hey, check out my social media. Tell me what I need to do. And in a group setting, y'all are kind of work through your social media profiles and kind of learn how to brand yourself better. But that's kind of my answer for that. Let me know if I didn't answer everything fully, and I'll do better. All right. Are there any other financial considerations that models should be aware of when partnering with an agency? And I do, whoever that was. So, just a little heads up. So when you guys write your questions, like all I see is like the actual question. I can't see who's saying that, but whoever said that, shout out to you. Great on the partnering part. That is how you need to look at it. You are partnering with these agencies. They are partnering with you to do business. Great word. Anyway, yeah, there are some other financial considerations that you should be aware of. And this is going to be something that is outlined in your contract as well. I'm trying to give you some real life examples. And so, one example of something that you would need to be aware of is who if you are booked for something that is not in the city you live in or somewhere else, if the client being the person that or the brand that is hiring you, um, if they're not responsible for the travel, who is? All right. That's one thing you would want to look at, and this is building on something else. And another thing would be, and this is when you're getting into these large agencies that have locations all around the world. Let's say that you have an agency that you're signed with, and they want to send you out to an Asian market for, a month or 2 months or whatever to book as many jobs as possible. They want to send you out there and they want you to work that market. A lot of times in those agency contracts, it will say who it because that's an agency thing. The agency's doing that. You're not necessarily going out there for a job. They're sending you out there to get you work. So a lot of times in that situation, the agency would for modeling. This is different than acting, y'all. But for modeling, a lot of times, if it's one of these larger agencies, like the big name brands that we all know, a lot of times they're going to foot the bill for that. Now, they're going to fit the bill in the beginning, but you are going to pay that back. You're going to pay that back once you get paid. They're going to take off X amount for percentages. They're usually not going to take your whole check. Usually it's like a percentage over X amount of time. They're going to take that percentage from that check and the agency percentage on top of that. So that is definitely something that you need to read over. You know, I haven't said it already, but when you guys are looking at these contracts, if you have the means, if you have someone that can help you, or if you, you know, can reach out to someone in the legal field to help you read over these, it is not a bad idea. Um, this is not legal advice. I feel like I have to say that on YouTube before I say what I'm about to say, because everybody's so weird about rules and everything. I think every single time I've been on this live, I've said something that I probably shouldn't have, but it's not impossible for you as a regular person that's not in the legal field to be able to understand your contract. You may need to research something, a word that is in legalese, to understand it, but it is not impossible. But just take the time and read it. Read the fine print. It's important. And if you have a question about something, it is not wrong to ask the agent directly before signing it. If that agency is not wanting to answer that, or is kind of vague when they answer some question that you have about your contract, that's a red flag and you should go. All right. So let's move along the line. And again, I'm going down rabbit holes. So if I miss anything, guys, by all means, catch me. All right. Would your agency be creating your comp cards for castings and covering photography costs for when it's applicable for the job they booked for you? Hold on. There's like 3 or 4 different questions in there. So I'm gonna try to break this down. Bear with me, y'all. All right. So let's break it down. So would your agency be creating your comp cards for castings? Ish. Yes. So obviously that comp card is a tool for you and for your agency to get you work. When you're working with a mother agency, uh, and you're in the development phase, or you're brand new to a booking agency and they're a smaller booking agency and they're willing to help do the development a little bit, um, they're going to guide you. They're going to help you with building out your comp card. Now, are you going to have to pay for a photo shoot? Hopefully not. You know, we kind of talked about earlier about how your mother agency is going to send your digitals and your test shoot out to other photographers to see if they want to work with you. Usually that's kind of like a trade. They have some project they're working on and they want to put you in it. So it's kind of a trade. Um, TFP, time for pay, or time for photos rather, is what that usually stands for in the modeling industry. So that's typically how it'd work. However, if you just have no photos and you're going to an agency for the first time and they need something to work with, you might have to go out and do a photo shoot on your own with a photographer they may recommend. That's not going to be something that happens through your agency in terms of like you paying the agency to do the photo shoot. There's a rule in entertainment, and fashion and modeling, and it's in the major markets, New York, LA. You're not allowed to double dip in talents funds. All right. So the fees are either upfront for like a service, like preview models, or they're on the back end via like an agency fee via that percentage. And so you're not going to find a situation where an agency is like, well, you need new photos, but you need to pay us $500 or whatever so we can get your photos. That's not going to happen in the major markets. So to answer that part of the question, are you going to have to cover your photography costs for comp cards? Maybe. It just depends. That's why it's a good idea to have all of your photos and good quality photos before you even reach out to these agencies, because then that's just going to make their job that much easier on helping you get photos, just for your time for free, basically. All right. Let me reread the question. So, would your agency be creating your comp cards for castings? We covered that. And covering photography costs. We kind of covered that. And then 4, when it's applicable for the job they booked for you. So, typically, if you're booked for a job, if you're booked for a client, the photography costs are not on the agent or you. So if you're already booked for the job, you're not going to have to like do any like additional photos to like prep for the job. You just go do the job, and then the client, the brand has already paid for a photographer to come and do that particular shoot. So that's my answer to that. And again, if I didn't answer that fully, because you did have like 4 questions in there, let me know. All right. Next question. So, are there any conflicts of interest that I should be aware of? How does the agency handle situations where my personal or professional interest may conflict with theirs or with another client? Um, This sounds like a very specific situation. Um, you should probably elaborate a little bit or maybe give me an example of what you want. So, the first part of your question, are there any conflicts of interest that I should be aware of? Well, the biggest one is conflicts of interest of other agencies representing you for the same things in the same area. We kind of already talked about that. Your second part of the question, how does the agency handle situations where my personal or professional, so business, your work outside of modeling, I'm assuming, personal or professional interests may conflict with theirs or with another client? Okay, look, I get it. I get where you're going now. This comes down to the same thing that I've already said when we started this. If you're working with an agency, whoever said it earlier, you're partnering with that agency to work with you. All right. So there is never, first off, there's never going to be a situation where you're forced to do something that you don't want to do. If you feel that way, that's not a good agency relationship. It should be it should be communicative. It should be a partnership. So if there ever is a job that comes through that your agency has submitted you on, or has asked you if you want to submit for it, and it conflicts with your personal views or your professional, life, and it's a conflict of interest or whatever, you should let them know. All right. Communication is the solution to everything. That's why we're having this conversation right now, because you can learn so much. So that would be my recommendation in that. And then I don't know what situation you're talking about, but if it's something that you really, really feel is going to be a hindrance for whatever reason, maybe it is, maybe it's not, I don't know. When you're having these serious conversations with your agency and you're kind of courting each other to decide if y'all want to work together, you might want to bring it up. That'd be a good idea. If you're one of the clients that is coming to the preview models event, a great time to do that is during the meet and greet time on agency day on that Sunday. All right. Um, when you are this is a great question. When you are reviewing a contract, do they usually allot you a few days to review the contract? They should. uh, if they're doing what they're supposed to be, they should. Honestly, if you want to take 2-3 weeks to review the contract, you should feel comfortable doing that. I do think 2 or 3 weeks is a little excessive if you put your mind towards it. However, 2 to 3 weeks is reasonable. And so if an agency is pressuring you to get a contract signed in a shorter amount of time than that, um, that's a little bit of an orange flag to me. Not full red, but orange. All right. Orange flag meaning be cautious, because an agency should only be that aggressive with you if they're concerned that you might sign with somebody else before them. Um, if that's the case, that's kind of a good situation for you, but don't let it affect you. That means just take your time because you got all these agencies fighting for you. That's the position that you want to be in. But you should not feel any pressure from the agency. If you are reading that contract for a week and you come back for questions and you have a list of questions that you want to go down and you go down it with the agency, they need to be comfortable with that. And if they're not, consider that because you guys, you and your agent are about to get into a, at least a 1-year relationship, maybe a multi year relationship. All right. Um, let's see. I think I answered that. When you're reviewing a contract, do they usually allot you for a few days to review? All right. So I got it. So this is your last call for any last minute questions before we go on. And then so Sierra, thanks for being on like every single one of these lives, I think, so far. We always love having you at the show. I don't know if you're coming to the March show again, but if you are, I can't wait to see you. Sierra was one of our past models. Oh, she is. Okay, so Sierra is coming to one of our next shows, which I think is the third event that Sierra has been to, and every time has gotten like a great response from the agencies. I think she did Chanel West Coast video, maybe the first year that she came. And her mom's great too. So I hope your mom's coming. And so anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap this up tonight. I'm actually a little personal info. I'm running like a half marathon in Florida on Sunday, and I am not a runner. So I'm probably still going to be filling this run that's coming up when I'm at the March event in just a few weeks. But anyway, remember that video that I talked about that this whole thing is based on. What do you do after, you get signed with an agency and you have a contract in front of you? That video from Luke, who is from Ophelia Management, is coming out tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern time. I'll let you do the rest for what the other time zones are. And we are going to continue doing this. We're getting a great response, especially after the live happens. You're able to go back and watch this. We're getting a great response from people. So if you want to know when the next live is or any of our other videos, obviously subscribe to our YouTube and our what is it? Our Instagram and our TikTok. I guess we have one of those. I've never been on TikTok, so enjoy that on your own, but definitely follow the Instagram. But anyway, guys, so I will probably see you in a few weeks back on this live. And if I don't see you then, and you're one of the clients that's coming to our Hollywood event, I will see you in Hollywood soon. All right. Have a good night, guys.